Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Woodstock Regional Artists. I'm your host, Sal and Miccio, coming from my home studio in West Hurley, New York, along with our producer, engineer, David Laks, in the control room at Studio A in Saugerties, New York. Tonight, we have singer-songwriter, multi-instrumentalist Mark Marshall as our special guest. Good evening, Mark. How you doing this evening?
Hey, Sal. How you doing?
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Listen, we've played a couple of times together with Mr. Kick, and I had a kick out of that. You are a multi-instrumentalist, so what was the first instrument that you got interested in?
My first instrument was a plastic drum set when I was 4 years old. I had a copy of See You in September by The Happenings and the single. And we had one of those big old console stereos where, you know, the record just plays over and over and again. And I would just sit there for an hour and a half, just waiting for it to come back and sitting there banging on the drums. And then, and we had an upright piano in the house. So piano was really my first real instrument. And still to this day, I mean, you know, I do guitar stuff with Mr. Kick and I do guitar stuff all over my tracks, but this is pretty much my main instrument.
The keyboard.
Yeah.
Great.
Yep.
And who were your early influences? I know your father had a lot to do with it, but who are your early influences?
Well, my father was an influence insofar as being in the studio. You know, it's kind of a gift when you have somebody. He was kind of a legendary New York City session guy. He did character voices and he did commercials and he did voiceovers. And to be able to go into the studio when you're like 7 years old and see this giant mixing console and go into the performance room and play the piano and play the drums, that was all really great. But honestly, my biggest influence when I was a kid was my mom, not my dad, because she played me all these great records. She would play everything from Tchaikovsky to Joni Mitchell and Carly Simon and Carole King. But honestly, my biggest influence of all was AM radio in the late 60s, because I had this little turntable that had an AM radio in it, and I would listen to WABC. And if you go back and look at the charts during that time, it was incredibly diverse. You could have Led Zeppelin and Gladys Knight and the Pips in the same playlist. Right. So I really got exposed to a lot. It's one of the reasons why the last album that I released is kind of all over the place, genre-wise, because that's kind of who I am. You know, I love hard rock, but I love ballads, and I love, you know, soundtrack music. I love music.
That's where it is.
Yep.
We all love music. That's why we're here tonight. So you were a preteen rock and roller.
Yeah.
And this first tune that we're going to play or show the video of is pretty rocking. So you folks want to get up and get ready to start dancing. Here comes Girls Like You by Mark Marshall.
There's a hell for girls like you, and it's filled with boys like me. Side to slide up to my side, and we'll kick it up a few degrees. To my side, and we'll kick it up a couple more degrees. I can see the fire in your eyes. If the room starts burning, when it comes, there's no surprise, because there's a hell for boys like me. With girls like you, slide to slide up to my side, and we'll see what kind of trouble we can get boys like me. Come on, baby, do that slang. Come on, baby, do that slang. There's a hill for both of.
So that was a really rocking tune, Mark. What
Thank
gave you
you.
the influence on that one?
Well, it's kind of funny. I'm an odd writer in that I don't sit down with a guitar and go, oh, I'm going to write this song. I will jot down a couple of lines and put them away. Most of the music that I make is actually 90% of the track is done way before I ever wrote the words. That's just how it works for me. It's bizarre, but that's how it works for me. Well, so I have this little book that I keep with, song ideas, and sometimes they're tabbed because there's a full song waiting there. Sometimes I have no idea at all, and a song for me can take 5 years, no kidding, and other times it can be a week. Well, so I wrote these 2 lines. There's a hell for girls like you, and it's filled with boys like me. And that sat in that book for a year. And one day I opened the book and I looked at that and I went, oh my God, that's and so I wrote it in a day and a half. And I recorded it in 4 days. I did everything on it. I did the bass and the guitars and the vocal and blah, blah, blah. But yeah, that was my inspiration. Is sometimes it's just a word or a series of words. Well, so those 2 lines for me were just like that. It was that right there would be a great, balls to the wall rock and roll song.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Light bulb lit up.
Exactly.
That's great. That's great.
You know what? As a writer, when that happens, you are blessed because most of the time it's slugging through the mud. It really is.
You have a number of CDs out. I'll mention a couple of them here. You have Let It Go, most recent CD, released in May of this year.
Yep.
Born Wired.
Yeah.
New Eye. New Eye has 19 tracks on it. You really went to town on that one.
Well, that's actually one of the reasons why Born Wired exists, by the way. I have it right here. Look, Born Wired.
There it is. One
of the reasons why Born Wired exists is when I released New Eye, it got really great acclaim. I was incredibly proud of the response. But most media people and industry people went, we have no idea how to categorize you because there's rock and roll songs and there's techno songs and there's ballads and I went, okay, well, you know what? For the next round, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do a rock and roll album. I'm going to do a singer-songwriter album. And then I'm going to do an instrumental album, which is what I'm working on now. So Born Wired was the rock and roll album. Let It Go was a singer-songwriter album, although there are a couple of covers in there. And the next one is called This One Love, which is all instrumental. But that was all driven by the reaction to New Eye, which was people going, we have no idea what to do with you.
It's interesting. National Public Radio said it was hyper eclectic.
Yeah.
I couldn't even say the word. That's terrific. Now we'd like to get into another song of yours, which is quite a change from the original song we just saw, Girls Like You.
Yeah.
And if you're home sitting with your mate, you want to cuddle up because this song will give you some influence. It's a great little song called Lover Please. Mark Marshall, here we go.
Lover, please, take me in your arms and comfort me. We have got all night. Lover, please, play with me tonight. Love glass of wine, the music slow. Look into my eyes, I look in your eyes, and we both know everything we want. Baby, I'm down on my knees. Love, please. Distract me like you know you do. You know you do. Take from me everything you want, but lay with me. You don't have to fight it, lover, please. Lay with me tonight. The moon is out, the wine is gone, the candle's low. Feel my fingertips slide between your lips, and we both know everything we want. Now, baby, get down on your knees. Lover, please stay with me till the morning light. Just lay with me. You don't have to fight it, lover, please. Stay with me tonight.
Now that was a beautiful tune, Mark. What
Thank
gave you? How did you come about "Lover Please"?
I was watching a movie called Final Cut with Robin Williams, which for you sci-fi fans, it's a great movie, an awesome movie. And early on in the movie, he's walking up to a bookstore and he just starts to look in the window, and there is this slow big band that starts playing, and right when he looks up into the window, the music stops. And I went, I know exactly. I mean, I literally paused the movie and ran to the studio and sat down for 20 minutes and just played the basic piano part of what would end up being Lover Please, just from hearing, because it kind of crescendoed and then it just went whoosh. Now, separate and apart, lyrically speaking, a lot of my stuff is about love or loss of love, and I was in the middle of a pretty huge relationship breakup. Actually, I was right on the tail end of it. And
Wow.
so it was about it, lyric wise, it was about just wanting somebody to comfort me, which is in lyrics. But so that was my impetus, was I was watching a Robin Williams movie.
That's terrific. So, Mark, on the bio, we have that you produced and co-host the Expert Witness radio show on WBAI. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I did that for almost 15 years.
15
and I'm
years.
very proud of it. It was a community effort. I'm driving in my car and I hear this radio show where this guy is talking about flying drugs into the United States for the CIA. And I went, holy, there's a guy on New York radio on 50,000 watts in New York talking about flying drugs into the United States for the CIA. And I went, wow, that's amazing. I got home and I went, let me go look it up on the internet. And there was nothing about the show on the internet. And I went, that's just crazy. So I called WBAI and I got Mike Levine's voicemail. And I said, hey, I want to talk to you about getting your show on the internet. And he called me back. He's a lovely man. He is like my older brother. But he called me back and said, sure, come on down. And so I came down with my then partner, and we sat in for a show. They were broadcasting from Wall Street at that point. And he said, you know, if you want to put it up on the internet, that's great. Fine. Build a website, which I did. And he said, you know, if you want to produce a show, that's fine too. Well, over the course of time, it probably took like a year. It went from me building the website and just engineering the show and producing it to co-hosting it with him. And we did that for well over a decade. The work that I'm most proudest of that isn't this.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Were those shows recorded anywhere? Or is there
No, the expertwitnessradio.org. You can find the entire back catalog. Yeah. Yep.
Terrific.
Thank you.
So let's go back to the music. We have a tune here that is a very interesting tune. Has some folks on it that we know, some local folks, some great musicians.
There's Lara Hope. And there's Neil Alexander, who is an amazing keyboardist. He can play anything.
Well, without further ado, let's listen to and watch Into Each Life.
Too much is falling in mine.
Mark, that was a terrific video, and I'm sure you had a lot of fun making it. Why don't you tell us about that?
I did. I had a lot of fun making it. Um, I play a video game called Fallout, which people who are into Fallout will totally get. And in this game, which is a post-apocalyptic wasteland video game, you're walking through this wasteland, but you hear this radio station in your ears that plays these old time songs, a bunch of great ones. And I heard this song, and after playing the game for hours, I was like, God, I love that song. And I wanted to do it, but one of the things that really irks me is when somebody does a cover that is literally like a carbon copy of the original. Why even do it? Um, and if you listen to the original track, which is Ella Fitzgerald and the Ink Spots, there's a female part and a male part. The first person I thought of was Lara Hope because she's amazing. So I reached out to her and I said, would you be willing to switch genders? Would you sing the male parts and let me sing the female parts? And she was like, I'm totally into that. So she came to my loft in Kingston, and Neil Alexander came to my loft, played the piano parts. Then when it came to making the video, I wanted to do something that would actually honor where I heard the song in the first place, which was that game. Again, post-apocalyptic. So I got this awesome picture of an abandoned hospital, and I animated it. It's just a flat picture, and that didn't work for me because I wanted it to look like it was actually a moving camera.
So I had a few people ask me about how I went about constructing the room, the environment for the Into Each Life video. And so I thought I would throw together a short anatomy of a room as to how I actually built the room that you see in the video. It started with a photograph by my friend Andy Milford, who takes amazing photos of abandoned locations. And initially I straightened out the room so the floor was flat, and I put the television set in the room, and I tried zooming in on it. And the problem is that it really ended up looking like you were zooming in on a picture. And I wanted it to look more three-dimensional. So I was looking at the room and thinking, what could I do? What could I move through the room to make it look more 3D? And in looking at the room, the thing that I realized that would be most easy to do would be to remove the ceiling lights and then put them in over. So here's what I did. I straightened the room. I cut out the lights. I painted over where the lights used to be. So that meant fixing the drapes and fixing the walls and fixing the ceiling. And I painted out a few branches that were on the right-hand side. Then I flew the lights in separately over the room and animated them so they zoom in faster than the room and move slightly up. This gave the illusion of it being three-dimensional. I then brought in the TV set, including shadows for the floor, so it actually looks like it's sitting in the room. And once all of that was constructed and it was looking good, then I took the actual video, flew it over the television set, got it to the point where scale-wise it would fit in the screen of the TV. And once I knew I had that down, then I moved it behind the TV where I had a green screen in the screen portion of it. And then I just animated them all up. And that's how I built the room for Into Each Life. Thanks for watching.
You always see some videos, you never know what goes into it, but this was a great explanation on how you had to prepare for it.
Thank you. And I got to say, the whole video was done social distanced. So I had a very specific idea for what I wanted the look to be. And Neil and Lara, they were both awesome. And their partners were really awesome about it. I said, look, I want a film noir look. So I want a light over here, so the shadow on your face over here. And they were really cool about it. They sent me test shots, and I said, no, move the light a little bit over here. And it was a real challenge doing the thing. Like if you notice in the video, there were these kind of diagonal lines. To do that is no easy feat. I use Premiere Pro. And it's no easy feat to actually do that, to clip videos so it's at an angle. I storyboard everything. So I sat there for hours with paper going, I could put the drum over here, I could put the bass drum over here. And And there's one really neat little thing. If you watch really closely, in the top right-hand corner is the snare drum, and in the bottom left-hand corner is the bass drum. If you watch the reflection of the head in the snare drum, you can see Julian, our 2-year, 8-month-old now. You can see him and I was like, look, when I start shooting this, you have to get out of the way. And he was like, I'm going to walk in. And you could see his reflection in the drum head, which is kind of sweet.
That's good. It adds to it. It's terrific.
And by the way, I got to say, the reason why I have an affinity for all that in the first place, that kind of music, is from my dad. He was somebody who would get hired to do like Rudy Valley voices. When I was a kid, he would do sessions like that all the time. But if you know Free to Be You and Me, which is a Marlo Thomas TV show from the 70s, it's very, very popular. They hired him to do Let's Hear It for Babies. He was one of those guys who could do those kind of voices. And so I loved that stuff from, Varsity Drag, Fred Astaire, all that old stuff. I love that stuff.
So, Mark, where can people hear and see your videos and hear your music?
Well, you can go to my website, which is markmarshall.com. You can find me on Facebook. Half of you guys are already my Facebook friends. So I'm on Reverb Nation. I'm on YouTube. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Instagram. I'm actually just starting to ramp up a monthly Patreon effort. I was running it up until Julian was born, and then I put it on pause because I was like, you can't deal with a newborn and Patreon at the same time. But I'm going back to that now. So okay. I'll post a link on my website right on the front page, although I think it's actually there already. But if you want to contribute to my work on a monthly basis for as little as like $2 a month, $5 a month, every little bit counts, because this is not how I make a living. I make a living doing media work for other people, but this is my love.
Right. It supplements it. That's good.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So that's about it for tonight, Mark. We really appreciate you coming on. We enjoyed this very much, and look forward to seeing you again very soon in the future. As soon as this pandemic is over, we'll invite you into the studio.
I would
do some
love
live stuff. That'd be really great.
Sal,
so, folks,
I so appreciate you having me here, and Dave back there in the studio. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
All right. Folks, that's it for tonight. We'll be back here next Tuesday, so come on over and listen to us and watch us. Until then, be safe and support your local musicians. Good night, everybody.
Good night.